welcome back to a brand new episode of the Rich Sports Report with your favorite host, Cozy Rich, yours truly. I hope you guys have been great over the last week. A lot has happened. I've been wrong a lot over the last week, but it's okay. But I want to jump right into things because, like I said, a lot has happened, so I don't want to waste your time, people. And as we know, the NFL playoffs are in full swing. And, you know, a lot of games happened this week, and there were about 8 games. 4 teams got cut or got defeated, the Patriots being one of them, and it was actually very embarrassing to watch being a Patriots fan. We got blown out by 30 points, 17-47, and we actually lost the game by halftime. But it is what it is. The rest of the standings, or the way the playoffs are set up for the remaining 4 games, are 49ers versus Packers, Rams versus Bucks, Bills versus Chiefs, and Bengals versus Titans. And for those of you that have been keeping track with the Rich Sports Report, yes, my Steelers have lost, so my Super Bowl prediction is not coming true. I know. I'm wrong. Can't believe it myself, but it is what it is. Happens once in a while, once in a blue moon, but it is what it is. But with the 49ers facing the Packers and Rams versus the Bucks, those are going to be 2 very interesting games in the NFC. I actually expect the Packers to win versus the 49ers. Why? Because the 49ers barely beat the Cowboys, and they should have blown the Cowboys out. So as a result of that, with the way the Packers and Aaron Rodgers is playing, as well as Devontae Adams, they have that chemistry, that synergy. The Packers defense is also playing very well. I just don't see the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo and his inconsistent play beating them, especially in Lambeau when it's going to be very cold, windy, could snow. They're from San Francisco, the 49ers. They're not used to that type of weather, and Jimmy Garoppolo's a pretty boy. You know he ain't used to that. I want to get back to the Rams versus Bucks, Matthew Stafford versus Tom Brady, Odell Beckham versus Mike Evans. This is a very interesting game because, you know, Tom Brady being from New England, TB12 I trust. Now that New England's out of the playoffs, I want the Bucks to win. I expect the Bucks to beat the Rams, one, because they are defending champs and they're playing at home, as well as the fact that they have the GOAT, and you never bet against the GOAT. The Rams did look very good versus the Cardinals, but I don't think they can replicate that performance against Tom Brady because Tom Brady isn't Kyler Murray, and Tom Brady shows up during playoff games. Now let's go to the AFC side of things, Bills versus Chiefs and Bengals versus Titans. I just want to say that the Bills versus Chiefs game is probably going to be the most interesting game of the playoffs, in my opinion, simply because they're 2 high-powered offenses. They both are in cold weather. They both have great defense as well. And like I said, I think they're going to be high-scoring games. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. I really don't know who to pick in this game. With the Chiefs having Patrick Mahomes being in the Super Bowl last year, I'm more inclined to go with them. So I am. But that's honestly a toss-up. And as for the Bengals versus Titans, I think this is the easiest game to call during the playoffs. I think that the Titans are going to win. I think they're going to win mightily. Derrick Henry looks like he's going to return. And if he returns, I don't think the Bengals have a chance, especially their defense. The Bengals offense is pretty one-dimensional. It's throw to Jamar Chase, and if he's not open, give it to Joe Mixon. So if you're able to stop one of them, it's very easy to predict what they do. But that's enough about the NFL. We'll see next week if I was right. Let's hope I was right. But either way, I expect to see the Packers versus Bucks in the NFC Championship and the Chiefs versus Titans in the AFC Championship. Now, let's talk about the NBA. The NBA trade deadline is about 3 weeks away, February 10th, and a lot of people are on the trading block, and a lot of things are heating up. A lot of teams need a lot of pieces, like the Celtics, for example. They could definitely use a point guard, as well as the Lakers, who could definitely use a lot of different pieces. And then you got the Knicks as well, who are just slipping down the standings, and they could just use a whole roster reshuffle around Julius Randle. But I wanted to talk about 5 people that I think need to be traded before the trade deadline or at the trade deadline, and I'll give you a little synopsis why. Number 5, we're going to start off with Ben Simmons, and I think we all know why Ben Simmons needs to get traded. The Philadelphia fans have said since last year that they don't want him on his team. He can't shoot. He has not played for he did not show up to training camp. He has not played one single minute for the team this entire year, and he's been using a mental health issue as a reason why. And he has recently come out and said he is not playing the entire season. He straight up said it. So if I'm Philly, you have Joel Embiid in the middle of his prime. You have a team that can contend for a title, and you have an all-star point guard that's not playing and has a lot of value. I would trade him and try to get some pieces to maximize Joel Embiid's future in prime in order to contend for a championship versus the Nets and Bucks in the East. But that's just me. I'm not Daryl Morey. I think they're holding out for James Harden in the summer. But I think Ben Simmons is the first person that should be traded. Now, the next person I think should be traded is actual shocker. He's on the Boston Celtics. I think Dennis Schroeder should go. Why? Because he's on an expiring contract. I don't think the Celtics are going anywhere this year. I think that's very obvious. They're not making the finals. They may make the playoffs, but they're not going far. We need depth. We don't have depth. We need a point guard. We don't have a point guard. Dennis Schroeder is a point guard, but he's on a one-year deal, and we will never be able to afford to re-sign him. So my idea is to trade him, get value for him in return before he leaves, and we get nothing. But that's just me. If I was an NBA GM, I don't know. I think I have good ideas, but we'll see what happens. Number 3 is Jeremy Grant of the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons are rebuilding. They had the number 1 overall pick last year, and they drafted Cade Cunningham. They just re-signed Jeremy Grant to a 3-4 year contract. He doesn't fit their timeline. He's 27 years old. By the end of his contract, he'll be 30. They'll still be in the middle of their rebuild. There's no reason to keep this man on his team when he's averaging 24 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He can do a lot for a contender. He has a lot of value, and he can bring in a lot of picks and young guys that the Pistons can use to build around. As I said, he doesn't fit their timeline, so I think they should get rid of him and get some value so they can expand or speed up their rebuilding process. Last 2 people, Damien Lillard. I think that speaks for itself. His time in Portland has kind of run its course. CJ McCollum he's not gonna win a championship in Portland. He thinks he is, but he's never going to. They don't have the cap space. They're not the free agent destination. He can't do it by himself. So as a result, he needs to be traded and ask for a trade so he can get traded to a contender and actually make something of his career instead of getting knocked out in the second round every single year. And he hasn't played in a month. So Damian Lillard has been injured. He's getting older. I think the time to demand a trade is now and get out of Portland so you can do something with the rest of your career. And last but not least, I think everyone expected this. Russell goddamn Westbrook. The Lakers were predicted to be in the NBA Finals before the season started. They're not even in the playoff race right now. I think they're number 10 in the West. That's embarrassing. They're 2 games below 500. That is terrible. Russell Westbrook has not worked out for him. He's very inefficient, turnover prone. Doesn't play great defense. He can't shoot. There's a lot of liabilities with Russell. He does have a lot of energy, but with his terrible contract where he's getting paid $40 million this year, I don't know how they'll trade him. And the way he's approaching the game and how inefficient he is, I don't think any team wants him. But they need to find another spot for this man because LeBron is averaging 29, 7-7, and still losing games with Russell. So that can't just happen. You're wasting LeBron's final good years. Man's 37 years old. Get him a good team so he can compete for the playoffs. But those are my top 5 people in the NBA that need to be traded before the trade deadline. Other than that, I really don't have anything else for you guys. Like I said, next week's going to be a big episode. Talk about the Super Bowl potentially. We'll recap the NFC or the divisional round in both the NFC and AFC. But in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great week. A great weekend. You enjoy the games, and I'm going to see y'all next week. Love.